A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guest and member of Cryo family. A very warm welcome to all of you. I am Kirti Purswani and I will be your host for the day. I am truly honored to stand before you today as we gather to celebrate a significant milestone in the Cryo journey. We are here to inaugurate the Cryo Alumni Network, or as we affectionately call it, CAN. CAN is not just an acronym, it's a promise to foster connections, to provide support, and to continue learning and growing together even after our journey at the Cryo has officially ended. This alumni network is not just about maintaining a professional connection, it's about preserving the spirit of innovation and collaboration that defines Cryo. It's about giving back to the community that nurtured us, and it's about staying inspired by the journeys of those who here have walked this path before us. Without further ado, let's embark on this exciting journey together. I would like to invite Mr. Ajay Ravindra, the founding team member of Cryo.do, to deliver the keynote address and launch can.
All right. Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Can all of you hear me? All right. See, it's a very, very special day for me. Okay. Very, very excited. Um, Cryo has been around for 4+ years. We've learned a lot in the process, and we've worked with so many of you in the past. When we started it, it was a very ambitious goal, transforming the entire tech upskilling game and bringing a very different perspective into it than what was compared and available at that point in time. So basically, video-based learning had become very popular. Many edtech startups coming up with video-based courses and claiming to be excellent and very effective upskilling platforms. But then we had a very different take. You know, we believed learning by doing is what really makes all the difference. You can watch all the videos you want, but actually building some projects, learning while actually building the projects using some of the latest technologies and other things, that's what made all the difference. And with that hypothesis, we set about building this company, Cryo, right from the ground up. Sridhar, Rathina, myself, came up with a lot of ideas. We've experimented with many, many things along the way. And finally, I think we're very happy today to announce to all of you, the kind of success that we've had. All of you here, many of you, part of that success story. You've gone through the drill, you've put in the hard work, you have learned by doing, and all of you have achieved some significant success as part of your professional career as well. So I want to formally welcome all of you. Super excited to be reconnecting with all the alumni. We had so many stories and so many successes, and some of the alumni keep writing back to us every now and then. They keep saying, thank you so much for everything that you did in Cryo. I just got my promotion. Very happy to all the help that you gave us during the learning phase. And we thought, it would be a really nice opportunity for all of us to sort of get together again and celebrate the successes that you've had, and also provide this kind of opportunity where all of you could continue networking with each other, being part of one big Cryo family. I know you've graduated from your programs, you've got your jobs, you're doing really well in your careers. But I think networking and staying in touch can really unlock the next level of benefits that you can get through the Cryo Alumni Network. So a quick snapshot of the accomplishments. Some of you have graduated many years ago, perhaps, right? So more than 1,250 careers transformed is what we have achieved so far. A snapshot of some of these successes. Global tech MNCs, you can see all the different lovely names out there. We have many people in unicorns as well, like Groww and Flipkart and PhonePe, and many other leading Indian unicorns as well. Some hyper growth startups and Sunicorns. We've Lending Car, Shiprocket, Brick, Aether, Navi. So it's a very humbling feeling for us as we reflect on all these wonderful successes. These are defining companies that are shaping the tech landscape of India as well, right? Whether it is a company like Groww or Lending Card or Shiprocket or Ather, these are companies that are changing so many things, bringing very very new offerings, solutions for the Indian market, not necessarily just a global market, right? And many of them have hired cryo talent. They're powered by cryo in some sense, right? No Broker, Swiggy, Vogo, Upgrad, Daily Hunt, right? So super happy. Feel really good about the success stories, and I'm sure all of you are here as well, to share your own personal stories. You bring your own stories as well with us, right? So, wanted to take a moment today to kind of talk about all that we have achieved, and also bring all of you together, create a really good network. A lot of benefits that we want to talk about as part of the Crio Alumni Network. Um, so, with this, we have a very action-packed set of sessions today. The fireside chat is particularly important with a very, very inspiring leader from the tech community in India. And that's something really exciting. And later on, we have Sridhar, co-founder of Crio, also talking to you about the specific benefits that you'll get as being part of the Crio Alumni Network. So with this, I formally declare the birth of the Crio Alumni Network. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for joining in. Sit back and enjoy the rest of the show today. I'm sure you find it really, really interesting. All right. Thank you.
It was the early 2000s, the turn of a brand new century. It was then a band of young, successful, and highly driven people with a common link went on to shape the Silicon Valley as we know it today. This band of youngsters later came to be known as the PayPal Mafia, the celebrated alumni network of PayPal. Together, they are responsible for creating multi-billion-dollar industry consisting of companies like LinkedIn, YouTube, Tesla, SpaceX, and Yelp. Almost a decade later, and 8,000 miles away from Silicon Valley, in a city closer to home, a similar tale was unfolding. Ex-employees of the e-commerce giant Flipkart, a group nicknamed the Flipkart Mafia, dared to reimagine India's tech scene, resulting in the plethora of companies, many of which have now attained the coveted unicorn status. This is what happens when you have the most interesting, brilliant minds of the era all in one place, in an ecosystem that is designed for growth and innovation. Our mission here at Crio.do is exactly that, to nurture the next generation of tech leaders. Over the last 4 years, we have helped transition over 1,000 careers, mentored countless tech aspirants, and fostered a pool of future innovators. But our vision for our graduates go beyond their first tech job. We believe that they can drive change, inspire innovation, and create impact in the dynamic and ever-changing world of technology. Let us take this turn to lay the foundation for a space that will become an ecosystem for growth. Presenting to you the Crio Alumni Network, an exclusive alumni association to help Crio graduate find the right resources and the network to create impact. Because once a beaver, always a beaver. Welcome to Crio Alumni Network.
So thank you, Ajay, for that insightful and the inspiring keynote address. You have set the stage perfectly for the upcoming conversation. Hey everyone, I'm Raj. Most of you might know me as Trevor. I'm really glad today to be joining this event with you all. Can definitely looks promising and a great platform to connect and explore various new opportunities. And I would like to introduce you the next event of the day at Cryo. I believe that the learning is a lifelong one, and that is something that makes them stand apart. It's about having a mindset that loves learning, welcoming challenges, and always aims to get better. I personally seen them grow from the early days, and I must say that the concept of continuous learning has been their philosophy since day one. And who better to shed lights on this philosophy than our esteemed speakers today? So, without further ado, let me invite Mr. Rathina, the co-founder of Crio. Joining him is our special guest for the afternoon, Mr. Kamal Govindraj. He's the chief architect at Groww and has over 15 years of experience in this field. It's an honor to have you both here. The floor is all yours, Rathina.
Hey, thank you, Raj. Thanks for joining us today. Really happy to have you hosting this. Hey, thanks, Kamal. Thanks a lot for taking time out over the weekend and joining us in this event launch. Thanks everyone for joining. Myself and Kamal go long back with our times together at Flipkart, almost 10 years back. Kamal carries rich experience of almost 25 years, if I'm right. So building software. I think he's very passionate about this craft. I think he has solved multiple large-scale problems with leading tech companies like Flipkart, Udaan, Groww, and his own startup as well, right? So I think he has been I think the best part when we actually thought about getting someone for this alumni event, I think the first name which came to my mind was Kamal. The reason being, I think I have seen him very closely, right, leading and mentoring a lot of us at Flipkart. He has been a favorite mentor for almost all engineers and product guys in all the places he has worked, right? So I think things which actually sets him apart, he's actually his humility and his passion for continuous learning and depth, right? And he always has very unique and valuable perspectives on the problems, right? So I would say I can very confidently say there will be very few people in our ecosystem who have an experience similar to Kamal in terms of the breadth he has seen and the depth he has gone, right? So I'm really glad he has agreed to spend time with us today. I'm sure this conversation will be very insightful and valuable for a lot of you, right? Thanks a lot, Kamal, again. I think we can get started, Kamal. I think it will just...
Yeah. So, thank you for having me on this program. So I've kind of watched your journey from a very early stage, and it's exciting to see it reach this milestone. Like, congratulations, and this is just the beginning. So glad to be here.
Thanks a lot, Kamal. Yeah, I think I remember. I think before even we starting Crio, I remember discussing with myself and Sridhar, discussing with Kamal. I think we keep talking to him, right? He's been a mentor and kind of inspiration for a lot of ideas and keep sharing thoughts with us, right? Thanks a lot for doing this, and really happy to have you here, right? Kamal, I think we can get started with, as I think would have, a lot of our graduates are typically in the early career, right? And there are some people with probably more than 5 years, but a lot of them actually 1 to 5 years kind of experience, right? They all graduate from Crio, working in their either a first tech job or probably second job, right? First job, probably they've not done a lot of great work. They upskill themselves. They're in their second job, right? Looking ahead for their tech career, right? So I think that's kind of the quick context about the audience, Kamal, right? So I think it'll be good to start with kind of giving an audience overview about a brief overview of your journey, right? I know it's a long journey. I think you've seen almost more than 2 decades of tech, especially our ecosystem evolving. I think it'll be good to start with you talking about your journey so far, Kamal.
Yeah. So so it's been about like 25, 26 years now. Like, I started with a company called Siemens. They were in telecom. So I started building management software for the telecom, all the telecom infra that is around. So like, as a first company, when I look back, I think that was a very good opportunity for me. Like, it was a very established company. They had a good training program. So we went through about like 2-3 weeks of training where they got in external very experienced trainers to like give us that foundation knowledge that was required, and also like a lot of processes, everything that was a good start. And it was a very complex project, like spanning multiple geographies, like an extended team. That kind of gave me a good foundation on how like complex software is built. So even though some of the things that I initially worked on were not very challenging or interesting, there was always that whole complex code base that was available and people who had worked on it that you can talk to and learn from. So that was good. And then I think after spending 3 years there, like I kind of moved to so that was like the .com boom. Like everybody was getting into internet and web, and so I joined the company called Planet Asia, which was kind of like a services company, but it has a unique model. Like they used to work with startups in the valley. And like it was like product development, but they were kind of providing
startups.
it as a service. So I still remember, like when I was kind of leaving Siemens, one of my managers, he kind of said, like, why are you going there? You'll be going and writing HTML code. There's no future in that domain. But I think that was one of the best things I did. I shifted from telecom to like web and internet. Like there, like worked with the startup that was in the US. Like that startup just had a CTO and CEO, and the whole development team was here, and they're building everything from scratch. In those days, like that was a really good experience. And then I think went back to Oracle. So that's kind of been my journey. Like I keep switching between like an established company and a startup. Then I go back to like a bigger company. Oracle again, like the actual work that I had to do was
Oracle maybe early days, right? It's not as big as today. Those days, right?
It was already big. Like
Big,
I
okay.
think it was 2000s, and a lot of those MNCs, at least those days, they had this mindset that like what happens in India is usually like maintenance. The core product stays in US, UK, and all that. Like so. So I kind of worked on a business intelligence product. Like the team here was kind of porting it to Solaris, and we were trying to also do some feature development.
Okay.
So again, like the actual work I had to do, that was not very exciting, but that domain was very, very interesting. That whole business and intelligence and analytics, like the kind of queries that were being used to generate all those reports and all that. And that kind of now is the same things that is now being used for all this like big data and analytics and all that. So that gave me an opportunity to learn about the database side of things. And then I moved to a services company called Tawant. Like till Oracle, like most of my work was on like C++, mostly on Windows, kind of desktop, kind of. And then, but I was kind of learning Java. I was interested in Java. It was an emerging like technology ecosystem and all that. So Tawant was completely a Java shop. So they interviewed me, and I told them that I've not worked on Java, but I know Java. And then so I got in there. That was again a services company, but like a few clients, kind of like product, like start greenfield projects. It was kind of building product, and that's where like it's all. So I was kind of introduced to all this Spring, Hibernate, very early days. Like they were done kind of. I one of the first projects I did at Tawant was like evaluate Spring, like Hibernate, and compare it with like enterprise Java Beans, the EJBs. And Hibernate was just, I think, 1.2 version or something. Spring, like Spring was not yet. I think it was still very early days. And that that gave me the opportunity to learn all these building enterprise applications using all these modern lightweight frameworks. So after that, I for about like 3-4 years, I was on my own. I used to do consulting. I used to work with startups, work with their team, help them with like architecture design and all that. And I also used to do trainings. I used to do the spring trainings in India. Then I came back to Flipkart. That was an interesting journey. The very happening days, like the first
even 13, 14 was like, I think the Flipkart is going crazy. Yeah.
And then HFT, like I did high frequency trading. That was a very different world, like very low level programming where like every kind of microsecond counts. So we're going back to the old C++ days, and then Udan, and now at Groww. Like so that's
amazing. I think the few things, right? I think you talked about there were patches. It's not very interesting, but you had something to learn. I think that's something probably for people to think about. I think probably when you have a longer career, when you look ahead for 10, 15 years, I'm sure you'll have some patches where it'll not be same. I think you have to figure out what to take out from each stint probably. I think moving on, I think if you have to think about some of the early days, I think I think what I can make out, I think probably the startup, the services company you worked for US and probably Tavant were like very instrumental in setting your a lot of tech foundations, right? So I think what skills and qualities you think kind of you picked up, which I think were very, very instrumental for you to carry it forward. What are some of the key learnings there for you, Kamal? I think one is, technical learnings, even outside of that, generally to be a good software engineer.
So like I think that the Plantasia phase, probably I didn't learn too much about software engineering. That was like very early stage startup. So while I was working at Siemens, like I was very much interested in all this distributed computing, networking. So I'd kind of been reading about it, learning a lot of things, but there was no opportunity to apply some of those things. So like when I kind of joined Plantasia and working for that startup, so there's nothing there. Like the first day I joined, so my manager, he gives me a document that explains the file format and gives me a zip file and say like build this thing from scratch. And just doing that, and it was I probably wouldn't have been able to do that well if I hadn't spent the time learning about it. So whatever the initial things that were needed to kind of get started, like I had a good understanding of it, and then I was able to then apply. And then once you start doing those kind of things, it becomes very challenging. You keep getting new challenges. You go explore. So I was fortunate to kind of work with a manager there, like who had worked in academia before. Like he was a research assistant in Kanpur, and he had also worked in Oracle US for a few years. So he had all these ideas. Like he used to kind of get those like papers and say like there is this idea where we can compress and store something in memory. So there's this idea where like there is this new thing called little languages where we can embed an interpreter and build rich functionality where I can issue commands from outside. It's like building a very simple SQL engine kind of thing that makes the whole thing powerful. So he used to throw challenges at us, and then we used to go figure out. And it was still very early, so the scale and the customer risk and all that like were minimal. So we could kind of we had that freedom to explore all that. So I think that 2 years probably like was like explosive growth. So they also had those days there was no cloud. Like they actually the US, their office, they had a rack, they had servers. Like we used to kind of how all that networking is done, deploying stuff on the servers directly. So all that was like a real good experience. And that's and Tavant again, similar. A lot of like greenfield, and like Tavant kind of was like started by a bunch of people who had built a product company, sold it to Amazon. It was kind of started as a product company, but the .com bust forced them to get into services mode. So that whole team was very
Product
not like a services company product. So they had even though it was a services company, they had set up an infra team which would kind of build horizontal kind of components and come up with best practices. And I initially joined that team when I worked with that team, but I think that model is not very effective. So I kind of got that team dissolved at the end. But that was also another opportunity where we getting exposed to all these things like Hibernate and all were very, very new at that time. So we did a evaluation. We kind of found one case where Hibernate's performance was not matching EJB. Hibernate, I think we had a support contract with Hibernate. We raised a ticket. I remember having a call and talking to Gavin King, one of the creators of Hibernate. So all that, I think, and a lot of these frameworks have now become very complex, but since I kind of started very early, so I've been able to kind of keep up with it and have a very deep understanding of all that.
I think one theme I could see is I think there are definitely you've seen multiple tech stacks and things evolving over a period of last 2 decades, right? One, and I also see you talking about one is I think what is work is demanding from you, and one is I think what do you go ahead and learn in the current available opportunity, right? So how do you generally learn? I think what's been your approach, your thought process over the years, right? Learning while at work, keeping up with whatever is changing, right? How do you generally approach that, Kamal?
So I kind of don't have a very organized system, but when I look back on how most of the things have happened, it's usually like a lot of the things I read and learn is because I'm curious about something, not because I'm looking for another opportunity where this will be helpful. But coincidentally, it happens that whatever I kind of spend time learning, when I go on to the next opportunity, that becomes very, very important. The way I think most of the things that I've picked up is so there's work you're doing. There is a bunch of things that you're working on. So you kind of analyze and see what are the problems, what are the challenges in the current way of doing things. So is it too complex? Won't it scale? Are there problems? And then try to see what are other things around that might not have these problems. So that is one approach. Like C++, when I was doing a lot of C++ programming, making it platform independent was a problem. Doing concurrency was a problem because there was no standard library. You have to. So then you take those problems and look at it and say Java is platform independent. It has a very good library for doing all this multi-threading, those kind of things. So you start kind of looking at it. And once I kind of pick up a topic like this, I do some initial reading, but the best thing that works for me is I pick up a book. Anything that I think is important for me to learn, I need to kind of pick up a book and or a course or something and go deeper and understand everything. And most of these tech books, I'll read like a novel. I don't get bothered about all the details I don't understand. I just want to get that whole holistic view of what all is involved. And that gets me a stage where all other learnings becomes very easy. Then I read an article and I can grasp the key ideas because I have that grounding. And one other thing is I kind of it's kind of like a hobby for me. So it's not somebody is forcing me to do it. So I end up usually reading multiple books. So there's this concept that I became aware later called spaced repetition, where you're at regular intervals, you're kind of reading this or studying the same thing. And
do you read the same books also?
Not the same books, but different books. There are slightly different perspectives. A lot of things are common, but I kind of it the understanding becomes much deeper.
Much deeper. Got it. Got it. Got it.
And the
So
other thing is concepts, like more
Hmm.
concepts, like not shallow.
Hmm.
So it's a balance between kind of understanding what is it, the getting the mental models right, the concepts right, and learning the surface so that you can apply it, but not focusing on the surface, not just the APIs, but what is it underneath.
Hmm.
Like those are probably.
So other thing I want to understand, right? For them, a lot of times, let's say when you work for a company, right? I think I see a lot of junior engineers actually struggle with that, right? So I think company want to solve some problem at the given point in time, right? And they want to focus. That may not just give you enough opportunities to play with everything else you want to play, right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? Of course, you need to do what is the right thing to solve the problem at hand in the company. At the same time, you're curious. You generally want to learn more. You want to try out more things, right? How do you generally get to manage that? For example, let's say if you want to learn technology,
my case is very different.
Company.
Yeah, so my case is very different. Like there are, but for a typical like engineer, like the better thing to do is like whatever they're working, just kind of go to the peripheries. Like so, like if they're working on like say Spring or Spring Boot, just look at what is in the new version of Spring Boot. So if they're working on like say MySQL or something like that, and look at what is so that doesn't take a lot of time, like investment and things like that. And like peripheries, like so if you're kind of working on like Java, look at what is like Kotlin, look at Scala, little bytes, read, like set aside some 15-20 minutes where you kind of go through some of these sites where people share aggregate articles, and then usually what happens is there is a challenge, there's a problem that is nobody is kind of focusing on it, but there is probably an impact which is not short term but slightly medium term. So once you have this knowledge, you can pitch it and say like and like you also have to kind of build some credits, like you do some work and get that bargaining ability to say like I've done this thing and I think this problem, like give me an opportunity to go and work on that for a while. And like and that won't be possible if you have not already done some groundwork.
Yeah.
And once you start applying, it becomes like whatever little you've learned helps get started, and then there is a very focused problem that you're trying to solve, and all that learning is driven by that focused problem, and that helps accelerate it.
I think great. Yeah, I think switching gears, right? I think thanks a lot for sharing. I think how you think about learning, right? What's been your journey of picking up things, right? Generally, when you look at, I'm sure you have seen a lot of engineers joining your teams and growing, right? I think what are those top 2-3 qualities you see, right, which help somebody? I'm sure all of these companies you work to have initial technical bar to get in, right? But beyond that, like what are those top 2-3 qualities which actually generally help somebody to kind of grow in a technical career from medium to long term, right? What kind of people you have seen growing based on your experience, Kamal?
So like on the skill side of it, it's basically like apart from whatever technology they know, it's the way somebody approaches the problem, the clarity of thought. Like you take a problem, break it into smaller pieces, keep track of how all of those smaller pieces fit together, and then start tackling those smaller pieces. Always be on the watch out for things that if one of your assumptions didn't work, then adapt your bigger approach. So that whole problem solving tends up being like doing dynamic programming and all. It's like taking a problem and then breaking it up into things that mapping to that, and then connecting all that together and solving a new novel problem that you've not encountered before. So that is a very, very important skill. Then like having all the mental model of how all these things work, like not very shallow. Like a lot of it is like abstracted out, but like knowing one level deeper, having very clear mental models, being able to have a discussion about some complex things without having to go to the board and write down every step. Then like first principles, like so when you're thrown a very new problem, it's like a lot of these maths theorems and all that. Like you can know the proof, or you know the method of like taking these other theorems and axioms and building that proof. So that ability, that first principle thinking, like taking that problem and then working from first principles, doing it. So those are some of the skills. And then there are like the softer aspects, like being able to like take initiative, working, like communicate, like being able to estimate. So it's very hard to come up with very precise estimates, but the ability to estimate and plan is actually very useful. And being able to kind of communicate when things are not going well. So that is important. That like our work kind of fits into a bigger picture. So the earliest you realize that something is not going as per plan, that needs to be raised. Like there are ways to then mitigate it rather than waiting for the deadline and one day before saying, "I'll need 2 more weeks." So those are some of the things I think that I can think of right now. Yeah.
And generally, like I'm sure you've interviewed hundreds of people for the senior engineer roles, right? A lot of people here are primarily aspiring to grow SD 2, 3, 4 kind of roles, right? Yeah. So typically, what are some of the key skills get assessed, right? I think what do you, let's say in companies like Flipkart or Groww, Udaan, all this companies worked, right? So what are the skills typically looked at when someone comes for a senior engineer roles?
It's kind of on the similar lines, but so I personally tend to kind of evaluate a person for like for the kind of problems he's going to work on, like whether it be it coding or design, anything. I usually pick up something that we are actually doing or did recently, and take that problem and pose. So what I'm kind of looking for is like whatever knowledge of technology they have, whatever experience they have, are they able to use that and apply it to solve a problem that they were going to encounter
here?
And then like for design, senior engineers, a lot of these things become important, making trade-offs. So like given like any problem, like if I'm given 1 hour to write code for it versus I'm given a 1 week, the solution will be very different. So being able to make those trade-offs. And even in design, like there are like 10 ways to solve the problem. Then like asking questions and getting all the so not assuming things.
Got it. Are they able to ask great questions?
Like these are all important things. Like most of these like companies like Groww and all that, like we don't emphasize too much on the specific stack or technology we use. So we kind of looking for knowledge that is transferable. Like this whole problem solving, knowledge of how databases work, how overall scaling, what are the challenges, like whatever language that you or stack that you've solved that in doesn't matter, as long as you kind of understand the underlying principles and concepts. And so those are more important. And also like so what, like some people, like there needs to be a balance. Like some people are very focused on just the features. They really don't care about the technology, and they say like I somehow make it work. If there is a problem, I'll go and figure out and solve it. Or the other side, there are people who just say, like, I don't care about the product. The school technology is what I want to work on. But for me, like, I try to find people who have the good balance.
Got it.
So, like, the technology, whatever you've learned should be kind of put to use to solve a problem. So some of these things, I think,
I think there are some questions from audience, Kamal. I think generally, we have some audience who are kind of SDET, focusing on automation career, right? So I think you have seen, QA landscape also evolving in last many years, right? So how do you see, I think that career path kind of evolving in some of the internet companies, right? How should they think about kind of keeping up to date to kind of drive their career forward? Primarily SDETs and focusing on
the automation has become very, very critical. The applications have become complex. The speed at which things need to be done is ever increasing. So one of the things where the Indian startups do very poorly is automation. Like every company have struggled, and like the whole developer, that SDLC is stretched out. Like you are not certain what bugs the feature will introduce. So like automation, like both on the DevOps side, SDETs, all that is very, very critical. One of the mistakes I've seen people make is like they are too focused on the tools or the frameworks and all that. But the real challenge in automating applications is like how do you manage dependencies? How do you manage data? How do you make this test repeatable? How do you kind of, if you're doing a load testing, how do you kind of simulate same production, like proportionally decrease? Like how do you kind of generate that load? So those aspects, I've met very few people who are able to do that well. So usually the QA automation goes nowhere. Like if they build a bunch of scripts and they fail and it's all false positives, noise, then people lose confidence and it's something that goes on. But like done well, it's actually very high leverage. So some of the like US companies and all that, like they are able to kind of achieve a lot more things with very small teams and move very fast because of so I remember, I think Instagram, like when they got bought over by Facebook, there were 40 people, not engineering, the overall there were two people managing the entire infra, like thousands of AWS instances. And same with testing, like this automation is integrated so deeply that they do deployments. Every check-in commit to master is deployed to production. So I think concepts, all this, like how to kind of actually do good, so that is useful, and that is an evergreen field. Like I think automation will always be useful.
Cool. Awesome. I think we almost come to the end of the conversation, right? I think I probably take a few minutes to kind of any kind of advice, last word of advice you want to just share with the community in terms. I think most of the people are, as I mentioned, in the early career, right? So like to share anything about I think generally about their career, how should they think about their job change, learning, any piece of advice you would like to share as a
I think like this is like we are actually a very privileged bunch. Like there's a field that changes every day, and there's something new to learn every day, and adopting that continuous learning mindset. Like not when you have to do an interview, go and learn kind of thing, but every day kind of learning something new. Especially early in the career, like focus on work. Like if you have the luxury to make those choices, like choose something where the work is better, the team is better. Don't focus on compensation. Don't kind of compare with peers on compensation and things like that. So that, like, I've personally never negotiated or bargained for salaries like within a company or when I made a switch. But like I focused on work, and a lot of times I've taken a pay cut when I joined another company. But overall, I think it has worked out really well. Like as long as you keep building your skills and strengths, there might be short periods where you're probably not getting compensated enough, but it gets adjusted very soon. Like continuous learning, choose work, choose good teams, to choose good managers.
Yeah. Great. I think great piece of advice, Kamal. Thanks a lot. Again, thanks a lot for joining and taking time out on a weekend, right? I think with this, we'll wrap up this conversation, right? Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. All right.
Over to you, Kirti.
Thank you, Mr. Rathina and Mr. Kamal, for that enlightening fireside chat on continuous learning and its impact on our careers. Your insights have been truly invaluable. As we conclude this insightful conversation, we now move on to our next segment where we explore the incredible benefits of being part of Crio Alumni Network. To shed light on this topic, let me invite Mr. Sridhar, co-founder of Crio, who will share with us many benefits of being part of the CAN and guide us on how to join the Discord community. Sridhar, please take over.
Great. Thanks, Kirti, for the intro. Hey, folks, good to see you all back. It's been a while. I know some of you have been chatting with some of you over WhatsApp, in making some of your career decisions, etc. Would definitely, want to continue that in a much more larger scale with the announcement of this whole new group to kind of like give a quick kind of prelude to the community, right? One of the things that we have been, if you've been in the industry for some time, the thing is that you kind of tend to meet the same set of people. I'm guessing all of you must be early 20s, right? And you will kind of like keep running into the same set of people. And, tomorrow you might start a company, you might want to kind of switch careers, and having a very solid network will change things drastically. One of the things that we saw earlier was from Flipkart, Rathina kind of like started Crio post that. And then if you see Kamal, he knew Kamal. We've got like several kind of valuable advices from Kamal personally, right? Like we have met him. He has kind of like guided us in a lot of different ways, how to think of certain things, insanely valuable advices, right? How do you get that? If you have to see, it's very, very hard to first of all know these people and then get these kinds of valuable tips that could just like save you, a lot of time and unnecessary effort. So kind of having a very good professional circle can make a lot of difference to your careers. And that's how we want to kind of make sure that all the Crio alumni have a very good place to kind of join and then kind of interact with each other, get real benefits out of each other, right? That's the whole point of CAN. So with that, we'll get started with the exact benefits that you could actually be eligible when you join CAN. So first and foremost, we would love to kind of introduce you to the lifelong career services. So in fact, we have been doing this, is not something new. So you kind of graduate out of Crio, you go outside, you have been working. It could be different reasons. Some people want to kind of like switch after, a couple of years, they have done really well. They want to kind of move to the next stage. Could be the next set of SD roles that you are trying, or some of the people have been moving, have moved from different state of startups to mid-sized companies, or the other way around after having done things, or maybe they got affected in some way because of market situation. Could be anything, right? Like generally, people who are in touch, they kind of like ask us, and then we have been kind of helping them out with in whatever way possible for them to kind of like continue their career from there. So now we want to make it official. So we are starting this Crio Career Services for Life, and like any time after, if you have completed about 18 months in your current role, we'd be more than happy to kind of like help you with your next job. Okay, whatever is a career transition you're looking for, or if you just like want to get some career advice, be our guest. We'd be more than happy to help you out in any way possible. All right, all you have to do is drop your note, your email, and just like drop a note to alumni@crio.com, and then we'll be more than happy to help you out in any way possible. Okay, this first, and I think people who have graduated a year and a half, 2 years back, you already know this, and you've already you ping us frequently to kind of like get one or the other thing done, but we just like want to make it more official. Second, and I'm hoping that in this current market situation, it may be a very, very useful thing for you also, right? Like because we have ties with a lot of companies, when we kind of like reach out, you would also, of course, be looking for opportunities, but we would also be able to help you and then bring some momentum to that. Second, you'll be having a premium access to the Crio Alumni Network, or CAN. As I mentioned, one of the key things is you would be moving along as a flock together in this industry. You will just like keep running into the same set of people again and again. All right. So having a network or a place where you can all kind of like discuss, collaborate, help each other is going to be very, very powerful. And that's where we are going to start with this Discord community. And you'll all be invited to the community. And then once we kind of like ensure that you're a Crio grad, we'll be letting you in. It's going to be an exclusive community for the Crio grads alone. All right. Third, as a part of the community, you will be eligible for some of the exciting alumni events, just like how we had Kamal kind of helping you kind of understand his career path and some very wise tips, right? So we plan to have several different talks, and we'll kind of like invite some of the industry veterans. We'll invite you as well, right? Like we'd love to kind of like understand your journey. Maybe you started off with a startup, you're kind of like taking off, your career is taking off, you've learned few things along the way, you want to kind of share with somebody who's kind of like in Cryo right now. So all the different kinds of sessions or talks that you would love to have, we're going to kind of bring those exclusive alumni events, and it will be both, we are planning for some online events as well as some offline events. All right. And then the other thing, we have some of the Crio alumni already kind of mentors in Crio. And again, we just like want to make sure that you are aware. There are multiple kinds of opportunities with us, right? Like, see, you kind of like learn something, you're kind of like have joined one or the other career option, right? Or could be pursuing masters. Now you could actually share some of those tips with the upcoming people, right? So there are different kinds of opportunities available with us. You could become one of our mentors. It could be just like voluntary, where you help certain people with certain things, or there are also paid mentorship opportunities, right? It could be around taking mock interviews. It could be around just like guiding people towards the next steps. It could be around, you kind of, let's say if you've become very strong in some tech stack, can you teach that? Could be DSA, right? In whatever way possible, if you would love to kind of like get involved in kind of guiding the next set of students, right? We'd be very happy to kind of get in touch with you and then go to the next steps. And we will also have exclusive early access to some of the Crio programs. You probably already aware, like we keep launching new courses, and some of them could be very interesting to you as well, right? So we plan to kind of like give you some exclusive early preview to some of the newly launched Crio programs. And I'm hoping that it would be right in time. I have been working as a developer or a automation tester, and then you want to kind of like grow up from there. So we might be able to kind of like give you more early access to some of our future programs as well. Stay tuned for more details around that. And the last thing is giving back to the community, right? So you have kind of already made the transition, you're happy, and we want you to kind of like give you multiple ways to give back to the community. First and foremost, you could kind of let somebody else know that, okay, you have kind of like got this benefit out of Cryo, you have kind of like made a drastic transition in your career. Can you actually tell somebody else for whom you think that we could help in the same manner, right? And also, if there are any job openings in your organization, we'd love to hear that, so that we could actually bring in some of the Cryo learners to your companies as well. Okay, we'll be able to kind of share more and more details around all those, and of course, everything has some special incentives associated with that as well. We'll be able to kind of get all those details in the CAN group. All right, that's primarily it, and would love to have you all in the CAN Discord community. The link for that will be shared in the chat channel right away. It would be great if you could just like click on it, join the community, and then drop a short note about yourself. Just do a small introduction. When did you finish Cryo? Where are you working right now? Full stack, backend, automation. Where are you working now? Any interesting stories about you? Would love to hear. And yeah, that's primarily it. So can you all just like, I give a couple of minutes for you all to click on it, join the Discord channel. If some of you have never been on Discord, it may take a few steps. for people who are already a Discord user, it might be slightly faster. I'll just wait for you to couple of minutes to kind of join this group and start with your introductions on the alumni channel. Meanwhile, if there are any questions, I'd be able to take that. Any questions that are there, I'd be able to take that. And by the way, one of the things from whatever Kamal had shared, right? He's a very, very deep software engineer. And then if you kind of look at the path that he has come through, I find it very hard, right? He started with books, then internet came, somebody asked that question as well. But learning today is much, much easier. If you were to think about it, you have almost all the resources at your finger snap, right? So I think there's no reason for us to slack, right? We should probably continuously push ourselves to kind of learn every day so that we grow. I kind of remember that point somebody asked also. You can see how hard it was to kind of understand some of these technologies earlier. And also India was not definitely, I mean, we had all these tech coming in, but I'm very sure you'll not have the same number of mentors that you have in the Indian ecosystem today. It was definitely not this way, say 15 years back. So people had to put in a lot more effort. So you have a lot of things just served to you on your plate. So make the best use of it. Okay, there are a couple of questions. I'll just wait on the screen for a couple of more minutes till all of you are able to kind of join the Discord community. If you have any questions, feel free to, any issues joining, feel free to just immediately post. Our team can help. And I'll just take a couple of quick questions. So working as a full stack developer, I'll just try to take questions that are slightly more generic. Rest of the questions will be able to continue on Discord, okay? Focus on only, should I expand my area of expertise? Okay, the question is should I stay as a front-end developer or move as a full stack developer? First thing is if it depends on your interest, right? In front end, you can earn, if that is kind of some of the thing that's on your mind, you can earn a lot as well. And you'll never be a full stack engineer who can do both equally well. Typically, you are a specialist and then you pick the other one for more breadth, right? So right now, it depends on your interest. If you have, I'm very sure you just started your career, right? It's not you know everything about your your current skill set yet, right? So I'd say double down on your skills. You should be, let's say, if I ask your team or anybody in your team who's the go-to person for, let's say, anything related to front end, if you are the person, that's what your first goal should be, right? Instead of kind of spreading yourself too thin, I would say if there is an opportunity for you to kind of double down, do that. Make an impact in your current company. Everybody should come to somewhere to ask any questions, right? That's the first step. If you're done, then you can start kind of picking up opportunity. Or if there's already an opportunity in your company where you have been asked to kind of say, do some more stuff on full stack role, then that's okay to pick up. Always double down. Okay, tech hiring is slowing down, unsure when it will require. Since the rise of ChatGPT, productivity of existing dev has been boosted and the need for new people is reducing. I think this is a question I think everybody would have a bit of concern, I'm guessing. I'll just take it. It's not really the case that ChatGPT is going to kind of make all the developers obsolete, right? It's going to make you it's going to just make you run on steroids if you have to think about it, right? You'll be able to do things faster. And there are so many technological problems that are not yet solved. And so many places where, the kind of impact technology can make, it's not done yet, right? Engineers have their own sweet time to kind of do things. If that is made faster, then definitely the disruption will be much faster in all the other areas as well. So see it in that manner. I'm very sure in India, you don't have to worry about software engineering jobs, at least for quite some time, right? At least medium to long term, you don't have to worry about it. All right. So that's primarily it. I'd probably stay back once in some time to kind of take any further questions. But thanks a lot for all of you folks. Really great to see some of you. I'd love to actually, if possible, switch on cam. I'm not sure if the Zoom allows that to work. Okay, if not, we'll probably catch you up on Discord sometime. And thanks a lot for joining on a Saturday. Thanks, Kamal. Thanks, Kirti. Thanks, Raj, for joining, and the entire team for organizing this as well. Hope to see you all on Discord, and then fun starts there.